Welcome to This Explainer. Let's jump right in. We are about to shatter your reality. Seriously, we're unpacking Anthony de Mello's The Song of the Bird, and it is completely anti-common sense. You think your logic is bulletproof? Think again. What if everything you call common sense is totally upside down? Get ready to have your illusions completely dismantled.
Picture this. A monkey frantically pulls a struggling fish out of a river. He carries it up and carefully places it on a branch high up in a tree. Why on earth would he do that? When you ask him, the monkey proudly says, "To save it from drowning." Boom! Let that sink in for a second. The monkey had the best intentions in the world, right? But his help was absolutely lethal.
Your idea of helping someone might actually be their absolute destruction. We constantly project our own reality onto everyone else. The exact same sun that gives an eagle its glorious sharp vision, it completely blinds the owl. Your common sense is often just a deadly, arrogant illusion.
Section 1. The Illusion of Knowledge.
We honestly think we understand the world. We don't. We just aggressively force our tiny minds onto an infinite reality. Imagine a rat standing by a jungle pool, screaming at a massive elephant to get out. The elephant finally lumbers out dripping wet and says, "Why did you make me do that?" The rat looks at him, totally serious, and says, "I needed to check if you were wearing my swimming trunks." Sounds insane, right? But that's us. We try to fit a massive, complex universe into our tiny, rigid, rat-sized rules.
So how do we snap out of this? The book gives us a 3-step process to read these parables. Step 1 is just entertainment. You read the story. Step 2 is theology, where you actually reflect on it. But step 3 is where the magic happens. Mystical silence. You don't just consume this like some data point on a spreadsheet. You sit in the silence. You let that inner depth actually transform you without a single word.
Section 2. Labels versus reality. We are completely obsessed with labels. We prefer the label over the actual experience. We take an explorer's map of the Amazon, frame it in the town hall, and memorize every little incline. We walk around calling ourselves experts, but we completely ignore the actual river, the dangerous rapids, the exotic flowers, the night sounds. We mistake the map for the territory. We trick ourselves into thinking we've conquered the Amazon, and we haven't even gotten our shoes wet.
Life is this incredibly intoxicating, heady wine. But look at what we actually do. We pick up the bottle, we squint at the font, we argue with each other over how a word is spelled on the label, we spend all of our energy completely obsessed with deciphering life's labels, and we completely forget to actually pull the cork. Stop reading. Start tasting.
This idea completely redefines spirituality. True spirituality is really only one thing. It's whatever brings you to inner transformation, period. If a blanket doesn't keep you warm, guess what? It's completely useless as a blanket. Forget your traditional rituals if they aren't actually changing you. Stop cutting the person to fit the coat.
Section 3. The Trap of Belief.
Our rigidly held beliefs are literally blinding us to the truth in front of our faces. Take Mullah Nasruddin. His wife tells him this rule. She says, when a man's extremities are cold, he is dead. Okay. Later, he's out in the snow and his hands go numb. Following her rule, he logically concludes, well, I must be dead. So he literally lies down in the snow. Travelers walk by totally lost, arguing about the way to the cemetery. And this corpse sits up and starts giving his own pallbearers directions. It's hilarious, yeah, but it's tragically relatable.
When reality clashes with a rigidly held belief, reality is almost always the loser. We would rather play dead than admit our precious rule is wrong. We will distort facts, we will ignore actual miracles, we will destroy our closest relationships just to protect our rigid beliefs. Do you know what the devil's ultimate strategy is? It isn't hiding the truth. No. First, he lets you find a tiny little piece of the truth. Then, he lets you turn it into a rigid, framed belief. And finally, he just sits back and watches you completely stop moving toward the actual truth. The belief becomes a brick wall. You hug the signpost forever, and you never actually walk down the road.
Section 4. Awakening to the Present. So how do we break out of this massive mind trap? We wake up, right now. Forget everything you've ever been taught about holiness. Holiness isn't about pious praying or wearing special, fancy robes. It is absolute, unfiltered, pure absorption in the present moment. The person over whom the future has entirely lost its grip, that is the ultimate master.
There's a story of a man sitting by the ocean. desperate to hear these legendary sunken temple bells. He tries to force it. He fights the roaring sound of the sea, getting more and more frustrated. Finally, he just gives up. He drops his whole agenda and just listens to the ocean. And in that moment of total surrender, the silence deepens, and he finally hears 1,000 bells ringing. Stop fighting reality to find a miracle. Reality is the miracle.
Look at the expert versus the awakened mind. The expert is given every clue about an egg. He gets the shape, the color, the taste, and he uses all his logic to conclude it must be a cake. He overanalyzes and misses the painfully obvious. But the awakened mind? A Zen master is falsely accused of fathering a child. His reputation is totally destroyed. His only response? Very well. He just accepts the baby. A year later, the real father confesses. The townspeople come back groveling and apologizing. His response? Very well. He completely drops all defense mechanisms and just accepts what is.
Section 5. Dropping the ego.
This right here is the ultimate face slap. The hardest truth of all. Your ego, your grand sense of I, is literally the only thing standing in your way. A neurotic man spent years desperately trying to fix himself. He was completely trapped. Then a friend looked at him and said, "Don't change. I love you exactly as you are." The second he heard that, he relaxed. He came alive. And suddenly, he actually changed. You cannot force deep transformation through willpower. It only happens the exact second you stop desperately trying to fix your ego.
A salt doll walks thousands of miles just to find the sea. She stands at the edge, completely fascinated. But just observing isn't enough. She wades into the water, and as she wades deeper, she dissolves entirely. Only as the very last grain of salt vanishes does she exclaim, "Now I know what I am." You have to completely lose your labels, your ego, your rigid rules to ever finally find yourself.
A lover knocks on the door of the beloved. A voice inside asks, "Who knocks?" The lover proudly puffs up his chest and says, "It is I," but the door stays locked. The voice replies, "Go away. This house will not hold you and me. There is absolutely no room for two egos in the house of truth."
Years go by. The lover returns and knocks again. Who knocks? The lover simply replies, "It is you," and the door is immediately thrown open. Keep your material goods if you want, but you have to drop the I. Burn the ego. Only when the I vanishes does the door of awareness swing wide open.
We'll end with this highly provocative question. You can fight for social justice, you can sign massive corporate contracts, you can even try to be a flawless saint. But if you are doing all of it while trapped inside a dream of your own ego, what does it actually matter? What kind of saint or freedom fighter are you if you are still entirely asleep? Stop obsessing over the map, burn the labels, wake up, and finally, taste the wine.